Hey there, folks. Today we are doing our live Q&A. If you haven't met me before, I'm Cinnamon. I'm from Washington, D.C. I'm a U.S. immigrant who's been living in Portugal for 5 years in June. Thank you for those who are joining me live. Hey, Jess. Hey, Venus. Yes. Okay, so we have a lot to cover. And if you have any questions at any time, just go ahead and feel free to put it in the chat, and it's first come, first serve. And I can stay here as long as you need me today to answer any questions. So to say that there is a lot going on in the world today would be an understatement, right? So I have been getting a bunch of emails from people, and I've had a couple consulting calls. And I think particularly on the U.S. side, there is some concern. I know this year is an election year, and so folks are just really trying to find out what their options are. So this is at no way attempting to be a doom and gloom video, but I do want people to think about things logically to figure out if moving to Europe is on the table or some other part of the world if you are truly concerned about moving out of the US. Have paper and pen ready. So funny, Venus. Okay. Hey there, Sheila. So we're going to talk about a couple things and then some mistakes I made. So let's just go over the agenda really quickly. So we're going to go over elections and currency. We're going to go over visas and immigration, the health insurance mistakes that I made, real estate and rentals. We're just going to talk about that one really quickly. And then, of course, we're going to do the Q&A. Hey there, Rochelle. Hey there, Renee. Good. Happy Thursday. Okay. So, and again, guys, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in chat. If it's something you want me to talk about specifically, I'll do that. I want everyone to, hey there. I have an answer for your question too. I didn't forget about you. I'm talking about you when I talk about my, health insurance mistakes. So hopefully I can make that make sense because it's kind of hard to do that in an email. So like I said, I've been getting a lot of emails, and please forgive me, guys. I can't answer everyone's email. So I try to come at least once a month or every 2 months to come and answer your questions here, because I think some of your questions may be someone else's question, and therefore we can all help everyone in the community. Not the cost of medicine, but there's some things I'll tell you how to figure that part out. Thanks for heading to Porto in 2 weeks. Congratulations. Okay. All right, let's get into it. So live Q&A, where are we in this? Okay. So, all right. There is a lot going on for my U.S. folks, right? So not just U.S. There's a lot of stuff just happening in general. So there's a lot of corporate layoffs that are happening. And I think in some cases, at least from the people that I've been talking to, they hear about what the cost of Portugal was years ago, and they assume that it's still that price to live here. And they are seeing that their financial obligations in the U.S. have just become overwhelming, right? Understandably so. But knowing that, it's important to know that that is a global thing. It is not just to the U.S. It's not just to Turkey. It's not just to Spain. It's not just to Portugal. We are experiencing just global inflation, and it is crazy. Interest rates are crazy. So I understand that there is some frustration, and you're immediately looking for some relief, right? And I just want you to think of some questions to ask yourself and your family so that, again, this won't end up being an expensive mistake. So as we talk about this, hey there, Fernie. Hey there, everyone. As we talk about this, I want you to consider some things that are just happening in general. And if that is the case, you want to make sure that you're moving in a very cautious way. So to come to Portugal, the immigration process and all that is not cheap. And then the things that you have to do for the immigration process are pretty pricey, right? So we're going to talk about immigration and the things that has changed a little bit, and the checklist that you can use in your current circumstances to find out how to apply for your visa. Now, we're going to talk about this for U.S. citizens specifically because I am a U.S. citizen. I don't know the process of other nationalities in regards to the immigration process for Portugal. What you also need to understand is that because of everything that's going on in the world and every country kind of having their own financial issues, there tends to be some changes in immigration, right? A lot of you may have heard that the NHR had ended in Portugal last year, but the prime minister resigned in November. So that's an election that's happening here in Portugal. I know the U.S. is doing an election, but there's also going to be election in Portugal. So to appoint, I guess, a new prime minister. I'm a little bit ignorant of Portuguese politics. I know there was a probe of corruption, but then when you read more into it, it's saying that people got the names wrong. I don't know. I've included some links in the description if you want to get more educated in that. And if you're moving to Portugal, I suggest get more educated on political system than I am. But I gave you some resources in the description of this video. But with that being said, it put a hold, or expected to put a hold, on the NHR for a little bit, which was helping U.S. citizens or foreign folks for getting avoiding double taxation and all that other stuff. It will end at some point. Now the question is, when is it going to end because of this change in elections that need to kind of happen? So we'll see. The date for the new election is March 10th, I believe, of 2024. So that's when a new prime minister will be elected for Portugal. Okay. So yeah. Hey there, everyone. Thanks for joining me. Oh, Shirley, what's going on? Okay. So the elections and currency, right? So the nerd in me wanted to know if there was a correlation between a presidential U.S. election year and the U.S. stock market. And fun fact, it isn't. Not a correlation that I can feel. So we're just going to run through the chart really quickly. There wasn't a correlation that I could see. But this is what I want people to understand currency. If you rock with me, you understand I'm always breaking out the currency chart just so people can better understand what we're talking about, right? So that's my studies. This white dotted line that you see here, this is when the US dollar and the euro is neck and neck as I can make it. So that means they're both even. That is where that dotted line is. Everything above it means that the euro is higher. Everything below it means that the USD was higher. So, and I have the dates of the presidential elections. Again, they have no correlation. I didn't know that. I was just curious. So this is this is January of 84. Now these bars that you see, these are year charts. So each bar is a year. So this is 84, 85, 86, 87, etc. Right? So those are the dates that you see there from 1984 all the way to 2020. Those are the dates in which we were up for a presidential election. And like I said, it's not much of a correlation. But what I do want you to pay attention to is that more often than not, these lovely bars up here are above the line, which means that most of the time, the euro is worth more than the USD. So again, if you are making your money in USD, if you're working remotely and you plan on moving to Europe, you will have some currency fluctuations that you need to financially budget for, right? So again, right now we're at 108, which isn't too bad. But for some reason in my comments, people want to debate currency as though you can't look it up on a chart. And so the expectation is like, oh, it won't get as high as, 1.2. And if you look here, this is 1.2 right here. You can see how often in the years it was above it. So losing 20% on the US dollar, at least expect that. Like that is relatively easy to do. I mean, that's happened with us at least since I've been here. That is the stuff you have to consider for your, I just got on the wrong thing. That's the thing you have to consider when you are making money in one currency and your life and your bills are in a new currency. So the cost of Portugal's rental market has skyrocketed drastically. And so when you're going through your immigration process, there's certain things they're going to want to see. And we're going to go over that in a second, right? There's certain things they're going to want to see. And they're going to want to see that you have a lease for a certain amount of months to a year. And if that is the case, you have to prepare that there may be anywhere from 6,000 to 20,000 that you may have to upfront and put out very quickly. If your immigration meeting is coming up very soon, you may find yourself just committing to a property just so that you can say and be in compliance with your immigration, right? That has happened to many of us, myself included. Many of you know I lived in Caxias in my second apartment here. And then it was time for me to move, and I'm frantic because I'm like, my immigration meeting is coming up. So I had to commit to a lease that because I had my immigration meeting and trying to get another meeting when you cancel it, like, good luck, girl. Like, it's a challenge, right? So what I'm saying is, I'm not trying to say to don't do it. I just want you to know that you're putting a lot of additional stress on yourself unnecessarily if you don't think these things through, right? So let me talk to you about the immigration process really quickly. So let's look at the website. And again, this is US based. And did I pull up the right thing? I sure did. And this is where I want us to be. There we go. Just really quickly, this is layofftrackers.com. This is actually a really interesting website because they do it globally. You can come here to location from Los Angeles to New York to Berlin to Tel Aviv. It puts things globally as to what layoffs are happening, what industry, how many people, what the date was. So this is just a really good website to just check out periodically. You can base it just on the United States, or you can do it globally like I just showed you. So that is also in the description link for those who are interested. So this is VFS Global, right? So anyone who's contacted me and had immigration questions, this website is going to give you everything you need. The link to this website is also in the description. But they also have it's a lot better than it was when I applied like almost 5 years ago, right? So you can do the short stay visa, and this is going to give you the overview, what you need, visa fees, documents required, all of that, right? And for the national visa, there's so many more options on visas than there were when I was applying. So again, here it is: independent work, remote work, digital nomad visa, amateur sports. They even have one down here, which I thought was really interesting: volunteer work. So here's another one. Some people were asking, and this is a great way. When I moved to Portugal, I thought that I was going to do like a volunteer program. I think it's like WOW.org or something like that. It's like it's like you work on a farm or something. And I was like really stressed out from the US. I was like, oh, that's going to be perfect for me. I can work on a farm and get my life, right? So really quickly, if you want to volunteer, that's what I'm saying. So if you actually want to volunteer, there are some options and some visa options for you. I think the thing is called WOOF. And if I can't remember now, I'll try to put the link in the description later in the video. But you can volunteer on like a farm or different places, and they'll give you lodging. And if that works for you, you can do that. And this is kind of the visa. I didn't even know this visa existed. This is kind of the visa you can apply for. And like I said, immigration everywhere is going to start getting tight. Countries are like, woofing. That's what it is. Thank you. Thank you, Vagabond. You're the best. They're going to start, hunking down on immigration, obviously, right? So make sure that when you are in said countries that you're doing things in a legal status, because being a legal immigrant, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and it's expensive. Okay, so let's go back to where we were. Where were we? Okay, so here's a volunteer one, but this is the one that it may have existed before. I just didn't see it, maybe because it didn't apply to me. Where is it? It's a medical one, which I thought was interesting because why can't I find it? Now that I have you guys with me, I can't find it. Volunteer unpaid medical treatment. Here it is. So this was really interesting, folks. So this was medical treatment, temporary visa for medical treatment purposes here, if you're having medical treatment in Portugal, right? And here's another one: accompanying a family member undergoing medical treatment in Portugal. I thought this was really interesting, right? So if you click any of the visas, this is the great thing. They didn't have this when I was applying for my immigration. You had to go into the meeting. To get this checklist, and now it's online when it always should have been, but whatever. So this tells you exactly what you need for the specific visas, right? So what I was thinking was really interesting. Like, I have a family member that it might be a lot easier for them to get medical treatment here than in the States. And I didn't know that this was even an option. But look here. So you're coming here specifically for medical treatment. And you see it says for transport documents, you need to have a round trip flight reservation showing that you were taking your butt back home, right? But still, if you see that that's kind of an option that you can have somewhat of an affordable type of healthcare experience if you just apply for the right application and visa and that type of thing. That's actually a pretty big deal because I had no idea. It could have already existed, but I just didn't know. And it really got me excited. So if I, did have a family member, we can go through the appropriate process. Now, you do have to have a resident or a citizen proof of situation in the case of residence in the country other than the country of current availability, which, no, wait, that's not it. Proof. Okay, so they're going to want to say your bank statements. That's not what I'm looking for. It's something that said that you had to stay with someone who was a legal guardian. Okay, they have to, no, somebody has to live here. Proof of accommodations. Here it is. Sorry, guys. It's live. I don't know what I'm talking about. Right here. Proof of accommodations. Lease agreement signed or letter from inviting institution declaration of family residing in Portugal. Hotel, Airbnb, reservation, that's everything for 6 months. That's kind of similar to the other visas. But they want to make sure that whether you're staying with a family member or a friend or whatever, that you're going to have to sign additional paperwork. I had to do that for someone that I sponsored their visa. Yeah, their temporary visa. And because I already lived here, I was kind of responsible for them until they, got their stuff together. So responsible. That sounded like that was real serious. It wasn't that serious, I don't think. I don't know. Anyway, so that's the visa thing. So please, please, please check this website out. Look at the particular visas that you may be interested in getting the necessary paperwork. And again, this link is in the description of this video so that you can find this out. This is just specifically for U.S. citizens, not for people who are not U.S. citizens. Now, here is one thing that could potentially happen, okay? You may have to do some additional things for your visa other than the checklist based on where you have to apply. I know for some reason, California's had to do a little bit more for their visa than we had to do in the East Coast. And for some reason, Californians always want to debate me on that. I'm like, look, I got people coming from the East Coast and they not having to do this. So be prepared for that. It might not be on the checklist because I feel like California has to have a whole bank account in Portugal, and that just was not necessary before. So just really check that out. It might not be on the checklist. Once you go have your meeting, then you can get your package and better understand that. So I hope that better makes things more clear in regards to immigration. If you have any questions with that, feel free to just drop those in the chat and I will answer that. Here's the talk about the mistakes I made with my health insurance. So many of you, if you've been rocking with me, you know that I just got the health insurance that my bank sold me. And it was the lower level health insurance. And so it probably didn't cover much, but that was fine with me because at the time it was a global shutdown and I didn't plan on doing anything or leaving the house. So fine. So fast forward, I've dealt with my various health conditions and gone to various doctors here. So you can find bad doctors in the US and you can find good doctors in the US. You can find bad doctors in Portugal and you can find good doctors in Portugal. The first doctor I had, I really, really liked him. He was just a little far. So I tried to find a doctor that was closer to me where I live now. I didn't like that doctor as much. And so that can happen, right? I know there were some questions in regards to the medication that I take. I'm not just blasting out medication I take over the internet. I'm not doing that. But if you are taking a specific medication, Google the medication and Google the prices in Europe specifically. And for Miss Lady, who I think you live in Canada, one of the things I want you to consider as it relates to moving to Portugal is if you plan on working remotely from Canada and using Canadian currency and converting that to euros to pay your bills in euros, last I checked, the Canadian currency is worth even less than the USD. So last I checked, I think it's like one Canadian currency equals 68 cents or 68 euros, cents of euros. And so that means you're basically going to lose 30% off of $1 every dollar, right? Now, I don't follow the Canadian currency to know how it fluctuates, but that's a big deal. So what I'm trying to get people to understand is, although you hear that things may be great and financially fiscally great on one hand, on the other hand, you kind of got to look and see what's balanced out, because Portugal is not the country you come to if you need a job. You will not be able to find a job in this country. So if you are moving and you are dependent on foreign income, you are going to have some problems. I mean, even if you're living in the United States, you could lose your job. So if you can lose your job in the US, does it make sense to go, particularly if you're in a situation where you're hearing about layoffs at your company, and you're going to go to a whole nother country where their currency is higher than yours? I mean, we gotta figure that out, but just balance out each side. The groceries are cheaper than the US, and the food is actually not filled with poison and chemicals. So that's a plus. That's one of the main reasons why I had to get out the US. I'm like, I can't keep eating this stuff. You know what I mean? So I get it. I get that there's going to be some things that I'm not trying to be doom and gloom. I'm just trying to get people to look at things from all sides. So the mistake I made with the health insurance, I don't even remember the name of my health insurance because I don't never use it. Every time I kept pulling, out the card, the hospital kept telling me they don't accept it. And so what I end up doing, and this is what I advise people to do now that I know better, right? If you have a particular condition and you come here, find out the doctor, and I said this in the last video, find the doctor that you want based on the specific condition, and then find out what hospital he or she is associated with. Then contact that hospital, ask them what insurance plans do they accept. Because I got tired of going to every doctor and they saying, sorry, we don't accept this insurance. And I had went to the emergency room, I guess this was months ago, not because anything was super horrible. I think I thought I had an ear infection. And I was like, can you just tell me what insurance companies you accept? And he wrote down all of the ones that they accepted with, and I'm with Deluge. He wrote down all of the ones that they accepted, right? So I haven't taken the time to cut the insurance off with my bank and get a new insurance company. And that's just something I have to do. But if you know anything about living over here in certain countries, Portugal included, Spain, I'm sure that people have the same issue there. It's just hard to do things. It's just not easy to do things. Like, things are just a lot. So I haven't had the mental headspace to do it. Also, I think when they sold me this product, it also had all these other stuff with my bank, which I'm really frustrated with my bank right now. I'm with a large bank here in Portugal, and some of you may have heard me complaining about this before. Even getting your money to Portugal now from a wire is now, you're being charged, well, I'm being charged to receive the money. And that has not been the case the whole time I've been here. So this adds on an additional expense that you got to consider and that I didn't have. And now I'm irritated because I'm not going to stop transferring money from the US because that's where my income comes from. So that's a bit of an annoyance, and it's just something you're going to have to eat because what are you going to do? I also had some issues with my account with fraud, and just the way that was handled made me really concerned about keeping money here. That did not sit well with me at all. And just to even go through the process took days. I had to go to the specific bank in which I opened the account. And anyone knows, if you've had fraud, you're trying to shut everything down immediately, right? And so that made me concerned. And on one hand, I'm not glad it happened, but it was such a show that I need to transfer from my particular branch because it was just disgusting the way that it was handled. I asked about the fee that I'm now being charged to receive wires. They said that they were going to contact their colleagues in the bank to find out what it is. I said, listen, if I need to get into a different financial product, just let me know. Oh, we'll email you. I don't hear nothing back. When I get the fraud case, they're like, okay, we're going to put a hold on this and we'll let you know when this happens. No one called. The fact that you have to actually call me is unnecessary, but I don't know. So it's stuff like that. Like, it's those great things that aren't on Instagram posts that you're going to have to deal with when you're an actual immigrant. Like when you're in the essence and the fabric of the country and you have to deal with the bureaucracy, you have to deal with the utility company. Okay, one other fact. If you are here and you have utilities and they are doing a direct deposit out of your account, I feel like I'm going to say, if you have an option, don't let them do that. I have an electric company, should be a regular, normal electric company that I have now that has been pulling money out of my account randomly. So they give me a invoice for the, this is so crazy, right? They give me an invoice for the electricity that I do use, and they usually send me that at the end of the month. This is not with all companies. The fact that this is happening with an electric company is just wild. Anyway, so I asked them to, so then the company takes money out my account at the beginning of the month. They don't explain why. I don't get an invoice. I don't get anything. And I was just so busy and moving I would say for a month. I didn't even know that it was happening. And so I contacted them. They never emailed me back. They emailed me back a month later, right? I had one of my girlfriends call to speak to them. She called all day. No one answered the phone. Do you realize how foolish that is to be a utility company and there is no customer service like whatsoever? And so now I need to change my electric company and ask me if I feel like going through that. If you want to hear that, my chair is making noise. So I hope it's not bothering you guys. Okay, so if you have questions, come and chat those in and I will answer those. Okay, so real estate. These are a couple things that you might want to know as it relates to real estate going on in Portugal. Now, this real estate has gotten ridiculously high. It is crazy. And like I said, if you're going through your temporary visa process, you may be inclined to take a rental property that you may not have wanted to commit to in normal circumstances, but you just have the pressure of the timeline of your visa, the second part that you have to do for your visa coming up, and you need to show that you have a year lease, right? So I had to get an apartment. I guess this is my going on second year that I'm staying at this property. And what was my point? What was I going to tell you about? Oh, so there is a bit of bidding wars, right? So if you are not in the country, if you try to get somebody to email you back or call you back, it's going to be virtually impossible. So there are some bidding wars that are happening. Sometimes people will list a property cheaper than it may be going for market rate. And then there's this large, massive amount of people who will show up or apply for it, and then the bidding wars kind of start there. Now that is a bit much. Like I told you guys before, if I lived in the US, I would not have to deal with that, right? But I had to deal with it with this particular apartment that I am in, and this was a year and a half ago. It has gotten substantially worse. It has gotten very expensive. And if you're coming from the US and you're used to a certain construction style, it's going to be different here. Okay, you may have some issues with mold, or you may have some issues with very thin walls. Like many of you remember my stories where my last apartment, although it had a beautiful view, I could hear my neighbor fart. Okay, if I'm in my bedroom, I can hear him fart. And that's how thin the walls were. And so there are certain circumstances, then the question is, just so you won't have to deal with certain things, you may have to pay some months up front just to have a little bit of security. Not saying that you have to, but that may be an expense that you may not have considered. I didn't know it was going to happen because I never heard of something so crazy. And the other years that I had lived in Portugal, I didn't have to do that. And the second apartment I moved in while I was here, if I had to stay there longer, I would have. But if they would have increased the rent on me, I would have immediately gone. There are parts that I appreciate that Portugal is not a litigious country, right? America is very litigious. There's a lawsuit for everything. but there's some aspects that you appreciate, because if your electric company is overcharging you, you know that there can be something that can happen that you'll be whole again. Like, just so those types of small nuances, they're not small, they're big. Like, if you're paying money and you're doing stuff and stuff, you just expect certain things to just go a certain way, and that's not necessarily the case. And so before, when I moved here and things were relatively more affordable, you just chop that up to like, hey, it is what it is. But now when your prices can be comparable to the US, like I'm paying prices comparable to US to go out and things like and it's like, I'm not paying all that money to be dealing with this. So I've been here and I'm working on citizenship. And so a lot of the stuff I'm gonna eat it. You know what I mean? But if I had to start all over, would I? I don't know. I just want people, you're going to have to make that decision for yourself. Like, when everyone has their threshold, everyone has, their own thing. And so you got to based on what's important to you. For me, currency. For me, citizenship is super important to me. And I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get that, right? And if that's the way you rocking and you can financially afford it, go for it. What is that noise? I'm not here to stop you. I just want you to be aware of what can happen, okay? Now, if you are not pushing for citizenship and you're just saying, I'm just trying to get out of America, then there's a lot of options there. And if you want me to spend some time kind of talking to some people who live in other countries to help you understand what those options are, I'll be more than happy to do that. But if you're a U.S. citizen and your money is coming from USD and you're going to have to pay your bills in euros, and there's that fluctuation with that, and this is your first thing, in record high interest rates are going on and job losses are going on, is it the best decision? That's on you. You're grown. You're going to have to make that decision. But I do want you to be informed, just because some of the questions I'm getting have me a little concerned. So if there's anything I can answer, let's open it up. We're going to chat. We're going to talk. I'm here as long as you need me. Oh, good. I did that real quick. Okay. Did I go over everything? Yeah. So now I think we're good. And let me come to your questions. Okay. So now let's do it. If you have a question, I'm going to start off. Let's see. Hey, y'all. Hey, y'all. Hello. Okay. Cost of, okay. Okay. All right, folks, I'm looking for your questions. Question I calculated. Okay. All right. Let's add. Okay. So question Q, I calculate 25% year over year, including taxes. Is that close? 25% of what, Jess? You mean like currency conversion or expenses? I calculated year over year, including taxes. Is that close? Can you give me a little bit more information on that, love? Because I'm not sure what we're talking about. It's about being most prepared. Absolutely. It's about being the most prepared you can be for the process. It's not a don't do it. It's a cover all bases. Absolutely. Please be prepared, because there are some folks that are coming over here and they're not prepared. There are people who don't like it. Like I told you guys before, like visit Portugal to see if it's your vibe. Oh, also there was a question from a couple that asked if they wanted to get like a more authentic experience during their travels here, in opposed to like scouting and still kind of feeling like they're getting the touristy experience. Now that I see they have all these various types of visas, I would kind of suggest doing one of those visas that may allow you to stay, not like stay longer, but not like so long that you have to commit. You know what I mean? And then that way you're getting groceries, you're getting part of the experience. You're not taking Ubers everywhere. You're getting public transportation. You're visiting various parts of Portugal. I would recommend, look into one of the different visas to see if there's something you can do in that space that is a little less permanent, but gives you more time to kind of like, jump in to see if it's what you want. I guess that's what I would suggest. Maybe the volunteer one or something like that. Yeah. So hope that helps. Okay. All right. Questions. Where are we? Okay. So let's get that one out. All right. These companies have to post their layoffs, I think 3 months prior to. In Europe, yes, I did not know they had to prior to Wolfing. Wolfing is the website. Thank you, love. Is the website that I was telling you that you can actually volunteer, and some places will give you accommodations. You may have to work on the farm. Like when I was leaving the States, I was all about, oh, I'm going to work on a farm and I'm going to be on relax. I was really on my, my boho stuff, and I didn't end up doing it, but I thought it would be cool. And then they have various options where people speak like the 4 different languages. I was like, I'll be immersed in it. So that could be a really good and cost-effective option. Don't forget house sitting. If you guys remember Stephanie talks about house sitting a lot, and that's a good option as well to kind of get another experience, and it not have to cost so much, because your accommodations is what's going to cost you so much. Okay, accommodations are going to be super expensive. Okay. In regards to companies laying off too much, that's not a U.S. thing. The U.S. doesn't have to let anybody know that early. Trust, because they don't even let their people know that early. But outside of the U.S., they do have to let you. Someone was telling me in Sweden they had to tell you within 3 months or 2 months if they were going to let you know. I was like, the U.S., they be treating us like trash. Okay. Here we go. It says, I need to look at more of the visa types because we are planning to do the nomad visa, but I haven't. Right. There seems to be a bunch of different visas, which I thought was cool. Hey there, Greta. Greta, the website, all the websites that I talk about, including some new article, are going to be in the description box. Okay, are you able to show the D7 visa? Just get on the link, love. The link's in the description, and they'll show you all the visas that you could ever be interested on that link that I provided. And then click that, and it'll give you a checklist of everything that you need. And I think after that, you set your appointment, and you're good. All right. I bought insurance from Portugal Bank. Yes, I bought my insurance from a bank in Portugal. It was part of a plan they had. I think there was like you can get renter insurance, health insurance, and like car insurance, and it did something. And I had just moved here, and I didn't know what I was doing. I even have to call to cancel that because I just haven't done it. Is prescribed medicine free in Portugal? Absolutely not. I read that somewhere, but can't confirm. No, prescribed medication in Portugal is not free. I'm comparing it to the US. To me, I felt like it was affordable, but somebody else may say it's not. So no to that, but you can get a better idea as to how much the medication would be if you just simply Google it. You can Google it in various European countries. You can get some insurance that will cover you throughout Europe, right? So I have just Portugal, and do I just have insurance income? I need to go get insurance. But you can buy insurance that covers you throughout Europe. So you could take the name of because we did that with my best friend, a medication that she's on. We just took the name of the medication and Googled it. So start there. Start with Google. We Googled it in Portugal to see how much it was in Portugal. We Googled it in France to see how much it was in France. And I think we may have Googled it in Germany. So just take time to Google. But medication in Portugal is not free. You do have to pay for it. What you pay for it can depend on your insurance. But as a foreigner, you have to get private insurance. It's a part of the immigration process. So yeah, okay, don't recall, but Portugal has a digital nomad visa. Okay, I'm gonna totally miss the food. Oh, the food is good. Okay, all right. Different quality. All right, questions. Can you provide a list of insurance that ER doctors gave you? You know what? I was thinking about that last night, and I can't find it for my sake, but I have to go to the hospital next week, and I can try to do that. But I don't want you to get caught up with that. I want you to go to the bank, because here's the thing, Jess. If you go to a different hospital, they may take something different. I want you to go to the hospital that you plan on going to and just ask them what health insurance they accept. Because I don't want you to be in the same situation that I'm in. Then you just get some health insurance and they don't accept it. Even still, the price for, like when I told you guys the procedures I went to and how much all that cost, it was less than like 200 euros. And I had a procedure when I did have something where I was under anesthesia, and I got to find that bill. I'm not sure how much that one costs, but I paid for it out of pocket. And then you can submit it to your health insurance, and they may reimburse you. When I talked to my bank again about the health insurance, and they were like, oh no, you could do something, you just call this number and then they'll give you a day. And it was just a lot. And I'm like, you didn't tell me all of that when you were trying to sell me this product, because then I wouldn't have. Anyway, I'm not gonna get down on them. Okay. Have you heard of Wise? I have heard of Wise for money transfers. You know what? Interesting. When I looked at Wise and I checked reviews, I'm the person who's gonna Google everything, right? Like, so if you ever want to know anything, like, Sin, how did you Google? How did you find Google? And I Googled Wise reviews, and I heard a lot of people complaining about how they kept their money. And so I had an incident like that with PayPal, like probably decades ago, right? With my first company. And so anytime I hear something like that, I get a little weird. So I used Wise a couple times, but I've never done like large sums of money. And if you're transferring, rent, your rent's probably going to be a relatively large expense. And so it can work. Nothing bad has happened to me with Wise. I don't use it that often because the people who left reviews on there scared the hell out of me. Right? So when I'm in a crunch or whatever, I have used them, but I don't do it often. In fact, I don't think I've done it in probably a year and a half. But yes, I have heard of them. We've had one bad experience with banking. Only one. We've had one bad experience with banking in Portugal. We later found out that we just picked one of the worst banks. You know what? Here's the thing. I feel like the one thing I have learned about living in Portugal is nothing is consistent. If someone went through immigration this way, you're going to go through another way. If someone had experience here, and you're going to have it that way. I have not experienced any consistency as long as I lived here. And it's funny enough that you bring up that bank, because one of my friends said that they love the bank, right? So it's just, listen, everything's a crapshoot. And I think that's a bit of the frustration. I think in certain areas, I don't mind things just being all topsy-turvy. But when it comes to my money, I don't play those games. I ain't trying. I ain't liking it at all. I'm not going to tell y'all the name of the bank that I'm on, because I don't want them coming after me later, because I'm doing this all public. It wasn't Millennium. But here's what I'm going to end up doing. I just to give you guys some information, I am probably just going to open up another bank account here. But what I will do with like money in general, I really don't know. I mean, that experience made me really, really nervous, right? So I haven't quite figured out how that's going to work. So I have no answers for you on that one. I don't know, but it wasn't Millennial Bank. I'm actually thinking about maybe I'll just open a small account with Millennial Bank, just because there's one close to me. And there seems to be one everywhere. Like Greta, no, I hear Millennial is good. It was no. Yeah, it's okay. What's the name of the power company? Let me see. And I don't have no problem telling you that, because they raggedy. And hold on. Loose. I think I might have to find it, y'all. So I'll put it on Instagram. I thought it was like lose. Wait. I think this is it. I'm sorry, y'all. So it's Luzboa. So Luzboa. So almost like Lisboa, but Luzboa. Yeah, so if you're doing anything with utilities coming straight out your account, don't do it. Like, don't do it. And yeah, Lisboa had raggedy. I would, yes, that's their name. Hoping they don't. If they come at me, I got proof that y'all were charging stuff out of my account when you shouldn't have, and I try to contact you. So whatever. Look now. Okay, so you need a good assistant, girl. Okay, you have choice in electric companies like in the U.S. Let me tell you something. The amount of electric companies they have here is bananas. Like over, I might be exaggerating. I don't feel like I am. Over like 30 companies. I don't even feel like I'm exaggerating. So there's a website. I didn't know anything about this because I feel like getting utilities was relatively a challenge. So my landlord hooked up the utilities for me. Initially, we had one company, and then he told me about this company. I gotta ask him if he checking his account to see if it's happening to him. He told me about this company actually, and he said he was at dinner with a bunch of his friends, and they all just started switching electric companies at a time because it is very reasonable. But that's probably why, because they're customer service and they just be out here pulling out money out your account. And then I went to their Facebook page after the fact, right? And I usually research the hell out of everything, but this was because my landlord was recommending it. I was like, oh, you gotta know, you know. I went to their Facebook page, and then there was other people on there saying, you haven't reimbursed me for, money you took out or something. I was like, okay, these people out here just doing the most, right? So that's when I sent a message, and I was like, listen, if I got to get an attorney involved, I don't feel like it. Okay. All right. Questions. Okay. So that's the electric company. Shaquan B. What energy grade do you have in your apartment? That's a good question. I don't know. And that's a very specific question. Like, you really know what's up. And I'm sad to tell you, I probably can't answer that question. Let me see, because here's one of my bills. Let me see where it was said. I feel like it's like mid-level, right? Like, so not the lowest one. And then there was one that I really want that was like high. And he was like, no, that's like what people use on a farm. And I was like, oh, okay. But if I have my washer, dryer, and the big eye on the induction stove on, it'll blow a fuse. So I'm like, clearly I need the farm electricity. So who's that? What is it? Oh, hey there, Temple. Temple's in the house. Hold on. What's going on, Temple? I'm going to finish these questions. Temple, if you got some questions, come in here for me. Cinnamon, you're so close, girl. Listen, Jess, I'm so close. I am trying. First year I moved here, I was not a resident. So although I would be here 5 years in June, it didn't start till when I got my residency the year after because the global shutdown and everything was closed. Okay. I feel you're paying more money and you still have to deal with stuff not efficient. Yeah, I think that's where my frustration has been coming over the past year and a half, maybe. So if y'all been rocking with me, like, why is Cinnamon already complaining? I'm complaining because I need y'all to know. Okay, are there any areas of Portugal where the rents aren't off the chain, just as the way we satisfy immigration? Venus, yeah. The further out you move from the city in any country, it's going to be cheaper. Any country, U.S., whatever. Go far. And you just got to ask yourself, do you want to live there? And if you do, then you go, right? But the further you leave the city, whether it be here, whether it be D.C., New York, Turkey, Spain, Madrid, Barcelona, the further you move from anybody's city, it's going to be cheaper. So if you just want to say, let me go way out so I can get my immigration paperwork or whatever, you just want to make sure you're comfortable enough there so that it works. The city might not be for everybody. Y'all know I left the city like 2 years ago. So, okay, France. Can you look at France? Question. Can you look at France? Damn, where did that come from? Can you look at Spain? Jess, I be getting your questions late. I don't even know what we're talking about. Currency. Oh, you're talking about currency. Is that what you're talking about? You want me to do the chart on currency? Y'all just gonna have to Google that one because I'm gonna head out. QQK, is there any other city? Hold on. Is there any other city in Portugal that you really like or love other than Lisbon? I live in the district of Lisbon. I don't live in the city of Lisbon. Here's the thing. I haven't lived in a bunch of cities. I don't have that experience living in a bunch of cities. What I would recommend is find out what you like, right? So if you're saying, I want to be by a beach, then you Google cities near beach in Lisbon. If you want, some folks don't like extremely hot weather and they say Edaceta is much cooler. So you'll say cooler cities in Lisbon. That way you can get a list of cities to check out and then just see if you like the vibe. You know what I mean? If you want snow, right, then you can go upper north and there's places up there that snow, you know. If you want more of a season, if you want, so it's a whole, like, Portugal's a whole country, right? So there's so many aspects of this country that you can experience. But I would say if you're going to leave a home country, look for the things that you want, that you like, that make you happy. So then when you do have to deal with some of this bureaucracy, you can go see some things you like. Like if you like mountains, be like, where the mountains at in Portugal? So you can go and stare at some mountains when things get ridiculous. So that's what I would recommend. Yes, cover all the bases and prepare for that unexpected. Absolutely. Okay, heard people have to do, serious work accommodations were just okay. Ooh, good to know. All right, so folks, if y'all gonna be doing, woofing can be great or awful. Heard some people had some bad or so. Okay, good to know. Thanks for sharing that. I hadn't had any experience with it, but I was looking at it. Okay, question. All right. Okay, I know rent prices can vary. Would a T1 and T2 be in a range? Is that about right? Okay, Greta. So let me, in theory, possibly, right? I don't know what it is right now, okay? In theory, one, you got to remember that $1,200, depending on what the U.S. currency does, if you were getting your money from the U.S., then that can easily jump to $2,500, depending on what the currency is doing, right? Secondly, if you see a property and other people are interested in it, it could have said $1,200 on the listing, but now you have a situation where people are bidding it up, and that once listed $1,100 property ends up going for $2,500. I've heard a woman who had her meeting that was coming up, and she ended up paying like $3,000, and she would have not dared. But it was just, she was frantic because her immigration meeting was come up. So immigration is changing also, guys, which we so the CEF is no longer CEF, and they closed it down. And the process to do immigration now, don't nobody know for real. The only reason why I haven't researched it is because I don't have to renew anything for another year, I think. But that's a show. I have friends who had their meetings in October. Excuse me. Was it October? October. They're still waiting on their card for the renewal. So when you travel, you want to have your card because your passport is still going to say US. And you can be in these European streets and somebody like, you ain't supposed to be in Europe this long. You're a US citizen. You want to be able to show your card to say, no, I'm a resident of a European country. So if you don't have your card, it's not safe for you to travel. Don't nobody know where the cards are? That's just the reality we got going on over here. So Greta, does that make sense? It could be listed as that. Yes. Could it be higher than that? Yes. It could be higher for that for a variety of reasons, as to if other people are trying to get the apartment, in addition to compensating for currency. Daniel, what is good? I haven't seen you in like 50 billion years. How are you? All right, question. Do they review docs, electricity companies, and etc. online in order to just Google a few and make comparisons? Do they review? Who is they? Who are you asking? When you say do they review docs, electric companies, and etc. online in order to just what? When you say do they, who is the they you want to review your docs? Talk to me on that one. Scouting in June, I see. Okay, we have not started with a new one yet. Okay. All right, any more questions? People at the bank were wonderful, and it was just, the people at my bank were really friendly too until I needed them. Yeah, and when I needed them, didn't nobody have no answers. Doing a quick Google search, I do see some provider reviews. Okay, good. Okay, all right. Yep, 30. Okay, electric companies in Portugal can be searched for reviews also, yes. Thank you so much, Temple. I appreciate you. Thank you for a great one-on-one. I'm glad you enjoyed it, hon. You got to keep me posted. Let me know how you're doing. Okay, there are a ton of electric companies. Yes, there are too many electric companies. Why are there so many damn electric companies? Especially if one can just, anyway, hello, I made it for the last bit. Yes, okay. All right. Are we out of here? Q, is there an option to not have auto pay? So, it depends on the company. Naturally, the one I'm with, didn't have an option, right? Probably because they know they're just going to take money out your account. I don't know. I shouldn't say that out loud. I don't want them coming for me. Um, I think it depends on the company. The company that I signed up with through my landlord, they require me to give them my banking information immediately. I had to sign some paperwork, get a text message, do all that type of thing. I am going to change my electric company. It is ridiculous that I haven't done that. I'm telling you that they're terrible and I'm still with them. Please don't do as I do as I say, because I got so much going on and I'm raggedy and I'm sorry. Okay. Hey there, Rick. Okay, our Black Utopia. Hey, can you recommend a city in greater, less expensive? Can you recommend a city, Greater Lisbon, less expensive and reachable? So that's what Greta just asked. Right now, I'm focusing on Portugal. So, what I would recommend again is just we talked about this earlier, is finding like the natural features of the, because Portugal is, it's a small country, but it is a big country. It makes no sense, right? Um, And like I said, there you're gonna want to be near water or a mountain or snow or whatever natural whatever you love when you have to deal with some of the nuances that come with this country. So I would recommend kind of Googling what you like. And Simple, you got me. Just tell me what you like. Send me something. Tell me what you like, and then you could start the search that way. And it's probably going to be further out, right? And that's okay. And that's also for those of you as far as the health insurance. I just really want to make sure, particularly if you're moving further out in Portugal, I just really want to make sure that the health insurance that you're picking is the health insurance that the hospital accepts, right? So please ask the hospital, what insurance do they accept? And then research those insurance companies and see which one works for you. Because you can get a lot of reviews from other people. Hell, I got one from my bank and it still didn't work for me. Okay, I can tell you how to try to get the information, but I want ultimately for you to make that decision so that you can get your needs met. Because when it doesn't work out, it is a pain. And you'll sit here in a situation where you know you need to call the people and cancel this and do that, and you just don't, because you don't have the mental capacity to feel like dealing with it. Okay, what's Rick say? What'd you say? Just make sure what you need is out there, service-wise, hospitals. Exactly. Especially as it relates to medication, please Google the medication where you are, see how much it is, and then see how much it is in various countries in Europe, okay? Can you recommend it? Okay, all right. Are we out of here? October, had my appointment. Had my appointment in July, just got my card 2 days. Congratulations! 195 days for them to send me the card. Meanwhile, people who had their appointment on, listen, there is, aren't they going to have a Porto Lisbon speech trade suit? Yeah, I don't know. Hey, Halacey. Okay, greater look at Idealista to get an idea. Right, so Idealista does have some apartments, and I feel like that's how I found, that's how I found this one. I found the last apartment on Airbnb, actually, but this was when we had the global shutdown, right? So, you know, that was different. I happened to go there. I said, listen, at that time I had my immigration meeting coming up. I said, would you be open to doing a long-term lease? And it was a global shutdown, so he was down. But then when the global shutdown was over, he was like, you gotta go, girl. I'm trying my spot back. So that's kind of what happened with that. I did find this apartment on Idealista. However, exactly what happened. It was listed at one price, and there were a various amount of people who were interested in the apartment, and the bidding war began. So that is what I'm saying, that you can see it be one number and it end up being something else. Now, I like my apartment, and I know sometimes when your immigration meeting is coming up, you may commit to something that you may not want to live in for 2 and 3 years. So test it out if you can, because some of the apartments here can be a little special, right? You can have a bunch of different issues, and now you stuck with it for however long-term lease you did it for, and you may not even want to stay there that long, right? So, I mean, if you can get a year lease, I would say do a year lease with the option to renew to 3, just so you could test it out to see if your neighbor's not crazy, if it's not crazy loud, if you don't have random mold, or you can't hear your neighbor fart. You know what I mean? All those nuances that you just won't know until you move there, and just things that just different. You know what I mean? Can you recommend a bank to set up an account with? No, I don't know if you just got on board, but I hate the bank. I shouldn't say I hate the bank. I don't know if you just heard the problems I've been having with my bank, so I don't have a bank to recommend on that one because mine is special. It probably isn't the whole bank. It was the experience I had with the people who I worked with. And initially, when everything was great and wonderful, I was like, oh, everyone's so nice. I hate that I always have to come into a branch to do something because, we don't have to do that anymore. And everything was great when everything was great. But when I had questions for the bank, why am I getting charged to wire money into this account? No one had any answers. When I'm asking about the fraud situation, the same nice people that were typically nice when I didn't have any issues, they were clueless. They didn't take initiative. They didn't do a whole bunch of things when it was time to do something. And I don't like that. So yeah, that was the issue. Did you rent a furnished or unfurnished apartment? On my I would say every apartment I've had up until now, this apartment I had to fully furnish this one. But I had anticipated being here for, honestly, I want to be here until I get my what's it called? My permanent residency. Because I don't, let me tell you something. Me having to move when I moved last year was so stressful. And I lived here. I lived here for 3 years. It was so stressful. It made me sick. Because all I keep thinking is, I do not want to be homeless in somebody else's country. Like, I cannot deal. It was stressful. I saw so many apartments. I called so many people. It was like a full-time job trying to find an apartment. And find an apartment that I would want to live in. I should probably be a little bit more specific. So this was the first one that it was unfurnished, but I did get all of them furnished. This was actually the first apartment where I had to do everything like I was really, really moving here, like setting up my electricity and all my utilities. I didn't have to do that with the other ones. I would pay the landlord directly whatever I owed, and so I didn't even get experience to how foolish that whole process is about picking electric companies out of the 800 billion they got available. Yes. So yeah, I did both. I did both furnished and unfurnished. I'm currently in a property where I had to furnish it. Are you leaving? Are you leaving after you? That's a very good question, Jess. You know what? And this is not just me. I think a lot of my friends, we have been talking lately about the frustration we've been having. And I don't know. To be perfectly honest, there are some times if you would ask me, I'm like, I'm out of here. You know what I mean? And then other times it's just like, no, I really like it. And then the question is, where else? Like, it'll definitely be Europe. And I'm like, I want to be in the cold. Like you see the snow and the things that the other people are dealing with. I don't want that for my life. It's just a lot going on. And sometimes because my clients are still in the U.S., right? So sometimes when I'm dealing with stress of work, the last thing I feel like doing is fighting with my bank or fighting with my like something I would never have to do anywhere else. I can't say anywhere else, but something I just seems so like, what? When you're dealing with just regular life, it's a bit like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? So I don't know how to answer that, hon. We'll see. Okay, Idealisha, I heard sometimes you see pictures. Oh, that is true. Okay, so anything online, guys, especially now because the way the economy is going, scams are at an all-time high. So just do your due diligence, whether it's on Idealisha or any of the, just like we have Remax and all those other real estate agents that exist in the States, they exist here too. So if you want to go to Century 21, if you want to go to Remax, I can't think of any of the other ones. Just put that in .pt, Portugal, right? Just put that and you can see listings there as well if that'll make you feel more comfortable. There are a lot of scams at Idealista, especially if you're going and looking there on a weekend. Because usually if there is a scam on there, they do it over the weekend and then they take it off before administrators could take it off on Monday, right? So just be careful. What is that? I turned that off, y'all. I'm sorry. I don't know why that's happening. Okay. All right. Just got cut off more than 6 months on my card. Okay. All right. I think this is our last question. If you don't have any more questions, guys, and I'm going to jump off. My message got cut off. More than 6 months to get my card. Meanwhile, some folks got theirs in November. That's what I'm telling you. Ain't nothing consistent. There's nothing consistent. Ever. That's why when somebody's like, oh, you could do it like this or you could do it like this, I'd be like, girl, don't be telling people that, because that is not how it works. Like, because when you tell people that, they assume that that's how it's going to be. Because because in the States, if something says it's going to happen like that, it's going to happen like that. It does not happen like that here. Like, and you just got to be okay with it. And you just got to be patient and deal with it. You know what I mean? So that's a bit of the frustration. Okay, one more thing. My bank refused to accept my signature for lock me out the app online. Have to experience it abroad. Yep. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I get it. Not surprised at all. So, all right, folks. I hope this was helpful. If you guys have any other questions, if you DM me or email me and I don't answer right away, don't be alarmed. Y'all know I didn't come here retired, so I still work, and sometimes it gets crazy. So that is what it is. And again, this wasn't doom and gloom, but just letting you know, just of some of the, being transparent of some of the frustrations I'm experiencing. that I'm experiencing. And hopefully it can give you a more balanced view if your decision is to move to Portugal. Just some things you need to consider, and just really take a look and understand how this currency thing can get funky, right? So there we have it. Thank you so much, Jess. I appreciate you. Penny, good to see you. Okay, followed you. Okay. All right, folks. It's been real. And yeah, until next time.